Hey everybody and welcome to Flotsam. This is a brand new game that just came out today, the developers of which were kind enough to send me over a copy to check out, and so far I'm quite enjoying this game. I played about 30 minutes. Essentially, it is a city building game in which you start in the middle of the ocean with this kind of little scrap pile, and you collect more scrap, little bits of plastic and wood from the ocean, and try and build out a large town, bringing in more people as you kind of drift through the ocean to new areas, and just kind of building and expanding your town as you go. And so, without further ado, we'll start a fresh new game here, and I can show you guys what this is all about. Well, that's it. Garbage floods wiped away our village. Perhaps we should stop sticking to these useless rocks and go explore. Who needs land? These endless blue waves, that's all we need. The flooded world is our oyster. Let's polish up this plastic into beautiful pearls. If only we weren't out of fuel. So what should we call our town? They do give you a little randomizer button, which I always like in a game like this. We've got Anchor Town, or Anchorton even. We've got Anchor Upon Scrap. We've got Rubbishburg. I love it. All right, start a new adventure. Welcome, everybody, to Rubbishburg. And so real quick, I'm going to pause the game and I'll walk over everything we've got going on here. And so in the top left, we've got kind of the standard stuff. We've got a few tutorials here that I'm going to close out. I've read all those previously. We've got our play pause and different game speeds here so we can make things go faster and whatnot. Up at the top, we have our resources. So we've got food, we've got water, and then we have our four main resources that we have access to right now. Those being wet wood, dry wood, plastic, and scrap metal, which we can collect from the ocean, and we'll get to that in just a second here. In the top right, we have the number of boats that we have, as well as the number of mooring points, which we'll also get to in a second when they become relevant. And we also have our town population, as well as our housing capacity. Right now, we start the game with 3 people and a housing capacity of 0. We've got no houses down right now for any of our people to live in. And then at the bottom, right in the middle, we have our build menu, which has all of the stuff that we can build right now. For example, right here, there is a small house that we can build, which is essentially just a bed for one of our people to lie in. And then over on the left here, all of these buttons here all relate to markers that we can put down, because the way that we actually begin to collect all of the trash that is available in the sea here is by putting down markers. So there are 3 different kinds of markers. There are swimming markers, which you can put down, and if you do that, your people will go, they'll swim out to the marker, and they will collect any resource within the radius. So they'll swim out, they'll grab something, they'll bring it back, and they'll keep doing that over and over again until they've collected everything within the radius. You can make the radius bigger or smaller with Z and X, so we can make it really big, or we can make it really small, and kind of define what we want to collect. Right now, I'm not too sure if there's a good reason why you wouldn't just go fairly large, especially at the beginning here when we don't have any resources, but the other options here are a boat. So you'll notice we have kind of like a circle here, and that circle defines how far our population can actually swim out. So you'll notice I can't put my circle, for example, over here. There is some stuff over here that we could get, but I can't put a swim marker down here because it's too far away from our kind of base core for our people to swim. They can't actually swim out that far and then bring everything back. So they can only kind of manually collect stuff in this area here. That is where the boats come in. A little bit later on down the line, once we get some boats, we can put markers a little further afield, like over here. It'll also allow us to get to this island over here and see what they've got going on over there. Get stuff like this as well. And you can put a boat down there, at which point one of our people will get on the boat, they'll swim over there, they'll collect some stuff, they'll bring it back. So it's kind of the same idea, but just with a boat as opposed to without one. And then finally, we have a similar idea, but for fish. So if we wanted to, for example, start to catch some of these fish that are swimming around in a big old group here, we could get a fish boat, stick that down above where the fish are, right here, and begin collecting those fish to feed our population. And then finally, over here in the bottom right, we have our research tree, where we can use our research points that we usually get from islands to unlock new things like bigger storage, better houses, a way to automatically turn seawater into drinkable water for our people. And then over here, we also have a map. And so as time goes on and as we unlock new stuff and kind of as we clear out areas of the world, you can progress on to new areas. So as soon as we get a mast, we can actually sail on over to this new area here, which is going to have a new island. And I do think, if I'm not mistaken, that the world is not procedurally generated. At least it doesn't look like it. This looks fairly similar to what I had last time, but don't take my word for that. But essentially, we can move on to new areas via this map screen here. I've no idea how long that goes on for. I've only been to the first few areas, but that's what that is. And then finally, the last little button here just shows our current inventory. We've got 40 food, 30 water. As we collect things, we will see them appear in here. We've also got a little drifter duties. Drifters are the names of the people. That's what we call our population. They're called drifters. Right now we have Sammy Flot, we've got Mouthful, and we've got Sharkbait. Those are the names of our 3 people. They do have pretty cheery little voice lines whenever you click on them. Hey, yo. Where's our last drifter here?
Yo, Westerme.
Hey,
Elaba.
hey. I love it. I love the little like voice lines that they have there whenever you click on them. That's pretty neat. So first things first, let's go ahead and set out a couple of these swim markers. So we'll make them fairly big. Like I said, I'm not quite sure why you wouldn't make them quite large, at least in the beginning here. So we'll put one down right about there. And for now, we will leave that. Actually, you know what? It's quite a large area, so I will go ahead and allocate 2 drifters to that area, and then we'll go ahead and we'll put down another one, I think for now, over here. There's a lot of plastic in this area, and so we probably are going to want a bit more wood, and so I'll also go ahead and put down another one right about here, and we'll have for now 1 person allocated to that, and so all 3 of our drifters should get right to work. You'll see them swimming away in the water to go pick things up. We can speed this up just a little bit here. And slowly but surely, they're going to bring all that stuff back and allow us to start actually building and expanding out our town center. So the first few things that we're going to want to build, I think ideally we're going to want a small storage yard, potentially a few of them, because if we look at our default storage, you'll see we're kind of almost there. We're at 75 out of 100 on the storage already, and as they bring more things in, that kind of fills up pretty quickly here. We do have this walkway here, which you can place down made out of plastic to extend out the buildable area. Right now you can just build kind of directly onto the pre-existing kind of little raft that we have here. So for example, if we want to put down a small storage yard, we could throw one down right about there, at which point someone should come over and start hammering away to get this thing built. And then once it's built, we should hopefully have a little bit of extra storage, so we can actually hold more of the stuff, because you'll notice that our town heart here is already full. So now we've got 20 extra storage available in this little small storage yard. Nice. And I think one of the first things that we're going to want to work towards is the drying rack, because all of the wood that we get out of the water is quite obviously wet wood. It's all completely soaked in seawater, and almost everything that we use wood for in the game requires dry wood. I've yet to come across any use for wet wood outside of turning it into dry wood. And so real quick, let's build a little expansion here, something a little bit like this. I want to go just short enough to where we hit 8 plastic as opposed to 16 there. So we'll build it right about there, and then we'll put down, I think for now, 2 drying racks if we've got what it takes, 1 on each side, here and here. And these are pretty nifty in that you can designate them to do certain things. So we'll wait for someone to build it here, and as soon as they build it, we should be able to kind of schedule them to constantly keep putting wet wood on there whenever wet wood is available, and turning that wet wood into dry wood that we can then use later on down the line. For example, once we get our distiller down, to make the distiller in the first place, we do need 8 dry wood, but once we have the distiller down, the distiller requires fuel in the form of firewood to actually turn salt water into regular water and make sure that our drifters don't die of dehydration, and so we are going to have to get quite a bit of dry wood just to make that happen. So once we have the drying rack down, we can then go ahead and select a recipe. Right now we have 2. We have got dry wood and we have dried fish, so if we had some fish, we could just go ahead and dry that fish out to be able to eat it, presumably. But for now, we're going to go ahead and select dry wood, and we'll select dry wood here as well. And so now, whenever there is wet wood available, they're going to come, they're going to put it on the drying rack, and then as soon as it's dried, they'll come, they'll take it off, and they'll do the same thing again. They'll keep putting wet wood onto there wherever possible. And as far as I'm aware right now, there's no priority system in the game, no way to kind of designate which things your drifters should do first. And so I think right now the default priority is to take care of anything like on the town heart. I forgot what it's called for a second there. Take care of anything on the town heart, and then after things there are taken care of, then go back out and doing the collection again. Okay, so real quick, this is Isaac of the future here. I was just editing the video, and I noticed that there definitely is a priority system in the game. I don't notice it for the rest of today's episode, but we will jump into it in the next episode here. We clicked on it earlier, and I just completely glossed over it. I didn't even notice it, but there is 100% a priority system. The Drifter Duties tab has all of the different tasks that your drifters can do. For example, landmark salvaging, constructing, getting water, cooking food, all that kind of stuff, handling duties, everything like that is available here, and you can bump individual priorities up. You can bump everybody's priority up. Just clicking bumps it up, and then right clicking bumps it down. So everybody, we can stop, for example, Sammy in this case, from doing any tasks whatsoever. You can also tell people to swim and not. So there's a ton of customizability over here, and there definitely are priorities I didn't notice it. I don't think it's a huge issue. We've not run into any issues really with some of our drifters doing things that we don't really want them to do. And so right now it doesn't seem to be too big of an issue, but going forward, it's definitely something that's nice to have. But anyway, just wanted to let you guys know that. And now we'll jump back in to the video. So for now, I think the next thing that we really probably want to work towards is this guy here, the distiller. It is going to take a little bit of time here. We've got to wait for all of our dry wood to actually become dry. You'll see it's almost there. This little blue bar here is the progression bar. I do notice my drifters shouting at me. They will do this from time to time. I am unable to salvage these items because there is no available storage space for them. So right now, he's trying to deposit the items that he just collected, and he can't do anything else because right now he's just holding onto these items with nowhere to put them. So real quick, let's go ahead and throw down a small storage yard right about there. They should pretty much instantly start dumping all that stuff into there, at which point they should hopefully be able to get on with the rest of the work. You'll see they've just taken some dry wood off of this rack here, and they're going to put some wet wood back on there as well. Fantastic. I will put down a couple more of these small storage yards because we do need quite a large amount of storage, especially if we're going to collect all of the stuff that's out there at sea right now. And do we have enough dry wood yet? We don't. We're at 6 out of 8. And so as soon as we get this next rack taken care of, we should be good to get our first water distiller down, which is definitely going to be needed because we are down to 21 distilled water, which is not a crazy amount. So we'll go ahead and we'll put this for now right about there. And as I mentioned previously, we are going to have to get ourselves a woodworking shed so that drifters can craft resources with wood like rope and firewood. The firewood is definitely what we're after because without the firewood, we can't distill the seawater into actual regular drinking water that our drifters can then drink. So much like with the drying rack inside of the distiller, as soon as our friend is done here, we can either schedule batches of water to be made one at a time, like so, or we can say to just continually make water whenever there is firewood available. You'll see right now we've got 0 firewood, so they can't do anything. For now, I'm going to go ahead and uncheck the auto queue there, and I think we can right-click to unschedule the task. We can indeed. Good stuff, good stuff. And we do not have the woodworking shed, so we'll go ahead and we'll throw that down, hopefully directly opposite. We do have just enough space if we get the click right. There we go. And so once they have that built, they can start turning our dry wood into firewood and then use that firewood in the distiller to make some clean water. Nice. So the next thing that we're definitely going to want to work on once we get clean water up and running is getting our first boat, because the way that we actually move on, the way we actually get out of here and to the next area is by acquiring this mast over here. You'll notice we have a little icon on the right. If we click on the icon, if you click on the little eye, it will take us to the island, and you'll see that this island here has 1 mast, 4 rope, and 5 metal scraps. So if we come and salvage this, those are the items we'll get. As soon as we get the mast, we can then actually move on to a secondary location, maybe this location here. And so that's kind of our goal for the time being. Our goal is to keep our drifters alive and try to progress on to the next area. I would like to get as much of as many of the resources as we possibly can before moving on to the next area. I'm not quite sure if that's strictly necessary. I do know that once you move to the next area, you can't come back, or at least I don't know how you come back if you can. And so I don't know how important that's going to be later on down the line, but just to be safe, I would like to try and really get as much of this stuff as is humanly possible. For example, this little bit of trash right here that our drifter has just collected, I think is kind of the last thing collectible in this area here. So real quick, I'm going to remove the marker, and I will put down a new marker over here on this plastic, and we'll get 2 more people out to collect that. I'm also going to move this one as well. If I move that just a little bit further out, like this, they can then go and start collecting all of that as well. Fantastic. So right now, there's nothing scheduled in our woodworking shed. So real quick, let's go and schedule some firewood, and we'll schedule quite a bit of it. And then we'll also go ahead and schedule quite a bit of water as well. Real quick, I'm going to bring the number of people down on this marker. I'm going to bring that down to 2 so that we always have somebody at the base ready to undertake work like the woodworking shed and the water distiller. Like I mentioned before, I think they do that no matter what. I think always they will try and do things here before they go out and salvage more, so I don't know if that's strictly necessary. We're also going to need a bit more space as well, so I will schedule the building of another little extension, and I think we'll go with 16 this time. It's a little weird the way that it works. I would assume that it would kind of go up linearly from 0 to 100 depending on how far out you go, but it goes up in batches of 8. So whether you build it really short like this or quite lengthy like this, no matter how big it is between here and here, it still uses 8 plastic. And so I think this time we'll go for 16, and we'll go all the way out as far as we can. So right about there. Perfect. And that's going to give us a little bit of extra space to put down our very first mooring point. And as soon as we have the mooring point down, we can build our first boat. And as soon as we have our first boat, we can go and collect this stuff over here, as well as visit our first island. Pretty cool. Now, I did also notice, I don't know if you guys saw it earlier in the episode, this guy right here, I don't know if this guy is going to be a problem for us. He looks horrifying. Like, the teeth on this thing are gigantic. And it's got like little horns as well. And are these supposed to be eyes on the side here? This like horrific whale monster that's in the sea? I don't know if that's something we need to be worried about, but I'll try and keep an eye on him nonetheless. But real quick, what do we need to make ourselves our first mooring point? We need 1 rope. And so real quick, we'll also go ahead and schedule the creation of 1 rope. We are up to 30 dry wood now, which is real nice. So once that is done, we should be able to put our first mooring point down. And then after that, we already have everything it takes to make our first salvage boat. The only thing we're missing is the mooring point. You can't put a boat down until you have a mooring point. And so as soon as that rope is done, which hopefully won't take too long here, we should see one of our drifters jumping on this any second now. Here we go. And as soon as he puts that into some form of storage, and you'll see already, all of our storage is kind of filling up here. But now we have what it takes to make our first mooring point. Nice. So we'll throw that down for now, I guess, right about here. And once that is fully built, we should then be able to put down our first salvage boat and send somebody out to go and explore over on that new island. We should probably also look into putting down a couple of small houses here. If we pause real quick and click on one of our drifters, we'll see that they do have a couple of different needs. They've got health, they've got food, they've got water, and they've got rest. Right now, food and water are doing okay. They will automatically eat and drink if food and water is available. However, right now they don't have anywhere to sleep, and so eventually they are going to start complaining about a lack of sleep, and if we ignore it for long enough, they are going to die, which is not ideal. So real quick, let's also go ahead and throw down 3 beds here. Unfortunately, you can't have them all just take turns in one bed. I did try that in my first little test playthrough, and they're not about that. It does automatically assign each bed to 1 drifter, so you do have to have 1 per person. But here is our mooring point, and so now we have that. Let's see about throwing down our first salvage boat. Right about there. We could have just as easily put down a fishing boat to start gathering some of the fish over here. And in fairness, it might not be a bad idea to get a second rope going, just so we can get another mooring point down and actually start doing some fishing. Because although we do still have 23 food reserve, which I think is going to last us quite a while here, it's probably never a bad idea to get ahead on both food and water. So we'll definitely look into that as soon as possible. But for now, I want to focus on getting these quote-unquote houses built, which essentially are just beds with a bedside table and an alarm clock. There's not really much of a house going on there, but this boat is pretty much almost done. It is now done. Fantastic. And so now we actually have this unlocked, so we can place down a little salvage boat area. As mentioned before, it's the same as with the swimming area, but now you'll notice we can go outside of this circle zone here. But for now, I think what we'll do is we will select this island and we will click salvage, at which point somebody should jump into this boat and head on over to the island, and hopefully we get some pretty nifty stuff. Now, certain islands like this one, we already know what we're going to get. We're not going to get any more or any less than what is shown right here, but I know that as we go forward, certain islands have unknown treasures, so we don't actually know what you're going to get from them until you go and salvage it. So this one is kind of just like a tutorial one where they tell you what you're going to get, but going forward we can get like a bunch of wood, you can get some scrap metal, you can get research points, all kinds of stuff depending on, you know, what's on the island, and you don't know that until you get there in most scenarios. But this guy is pretty much good to go. He's grabbed the mast there off of the boat, and so as soon as he brings that back, I'm fairly certain that we are able to basically set our entire town here afloat and start drifting with the wind over to our new area if we like. And I think I will. Honestly, I think what I'll do actually real quick is I'm not too bothered about the fish. I'm fairly certain there will be fish in the new area, although how many fish are there? I don't know, because I'm wondering if the fish are an infinite resource, like they're just there forever, you can just keep going and keep fishing so long as you have somebody out there. I don't think that's how that's going to work. I'm assuming it's going to be more like the scrap, where there's maybe a set number of fish here, and it might not be a bad idea for us to get those before we head off. So I will put down another mooring point, and I'll also set another marker down over here, I think. Is there one? How are we doing on resources? We've got quite a lot of plastic. We've got a fair amount of wood, but we could probably do with more wood. I'm just kind of contemplating where I want to put this new boat. There's quite a lot of wood over here. There's some wood and some plastic over there. I think for now I'm going to put it down over here. We'll make it a little bit bigger, and we'll put it down like that. Our new mooring point is ready to go. I'll put a little fishing boat in here, at which point we can put a fishing waypoint down over here, and yeah, you can see there are 25 fish in this area, and so if we select that, they can go out and start fishing over there. I don't know if it matters if we shrink it or not. I don't know how. It says 25 no matter what. I guess I'll make it nice and small. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if they waste their time, trying to fish in different areas if we make it really big, but just to make the lives of our drifters a little bit easier, we'll put down a nice small little marker, and hopefully somebody will quickly jump on this little boat here as soon as it's ready to go and start fishing, which would be absolutely fantastic. And I'm assuming, hopefully, that the boats are a little bit faster than the people just swimming. Like, my assumption would be that even though they have to go, like, both there and back in the boat, they can probably carry more on the boat than they can normally, and so can probably take fewer trips to get all of the stuff that is here. You can see this guy loading up all of that wet wood onto the raft before he heads back. Fantastic. I think, yeah, that's got to tick. He had a little alert box there. I think he just wanted to let us know that we had completed that little kind of side quest. We are running a little bit low on water. You'll see the water marker kind of flickering at the top there. So real quick, let's get a bunch of, actually cancel that. I want to get firewood, not rope. So we'll get a bunch of firewood going, and then we'll also schedule, of course, a bunch of fresh water, like so. And I think water is kind of one of those things that we might want to have on just auto queue, so that whenever we have fuel available, they will just make fresh water. And so essentially, if we ever need fresh water, we can just go and schedule firewood, safe in the knowledge that they will then take that firewood and automatically turn it into water for us. And water definitely is the first resource that we have to worry about. We're down to 15 fish already, so it looks like it's only going to take 2 more trips to get all of the fish that is out there. I'm a little concerned that we might not have enough storage for all of that, and I also don't know what the best way is for us to actually use our fish right now. We've got 10 nibbler fish. I don't think they automatically count towards food reserves. My assumption would be that we do it on the drying rack, turning the fish into dried fish, which has a nutritional value of 0.5, as opposed to the canned food, which we got right now. We're running off the canned food that we started with. Presumably later on down the line, we might unlock the ability to build like an oven or a stove or a fire or something like that. Let me check the research tree real quick. Yes, we've got a fishing hut, we've got a fish kebab, and we have a food truck. I'm not quite sure how the food truck works, but as soon as we get 5 research points, we unlock the fish kebab. I don't know still how we would go about cooking that, but I think for now, I will repurpose one of our drying racks into a fish drying rack, so we can start actually generating more food. Oh, I see. We're up to 14.5 now, so each one of these is worth 0.5 food at the top. We started with, I think it was 20 food or 25 food, so that is perfectly fine. And there's 5 more fish there. As soon as they've got that fish, I think we will look into moving on to our new area. Speaking of moving on, we do now have access, of course, to the mast here, so we actually go and put that down somewhere on the base. For now, I guess we'll put it right about there, right at the tip of the town there. Again, getting kind of dangerously close to maximum capacity. We're at 165 out of 180, so I will put down another... Oh, I can't put it there. That's where my boat goes. I'll put it down like right about there for now. I do want to be careful because I'm filling up all of these areas and not leaving much room for expansion. Right now, the only option we really have is kind of like out here, or maybe potentially kind of out this way. Although I don't even know if I could squeeze one in over there. No, like I can out here, but not from this. So we might have to rejigger some things and move some things around, like get rid of some of these storage units and put them somewhere else if push comes to shove. But this sail is coming along nicely. Fantastic. And so now we have the option to actually move to a new area. This one has new villages and a second abandoned town that we can go and check out in just a second here. It looks like we are completely done with the fish. We are indeed. There's still a bit of wood over here that we could collect. There's 31 wood over there. And there's also, of course, stuff over here as well. But I think for now, we can probably head on over to our new area. We're doing kind of okay on food. We're still heading up in the food department, which is good. And we're doing okay on water. We should definitely schedule yet more firewood here. And it definitely is a bit of a balancing act, because as soon as we run out of dry wood, we can't make more firewood, which means we can't make more water. So I guess we'll hold off just a second while they bring back this last little shipment of wetwood. As soon as this shipment of wetwood gets brought back, I will then head on over to the next area, and we'll look at potentially getting some more people. I'm a little concerned about getting too many people too quickly, because I think that, especially given our current water situation, that might not be the best idea. I guess the first piece of research that we probably want to collect is maybe the solar still slowly generates a small amount of fresh water. It is 10 research points. I'm assuming we get maybe 5 the first time we get research points, and so we could unlock something like the scrapsmith, which can turn scrap metal into something more useful like pipes and screws. We can make a better house to just build a better home for our drifters. We can get a small water container, stores a small amount of water. I don't think that's strictly necessary just yet. I guess that's if we want to backlog more water than we can currently handle. And then there's also, of course, the fish kebab, which might be worth it, just because I'm assuming that the fish kebab is worth more nutrition points than just a dried fish is. But nevertheless, let's have a look at the map real quick, and let's move on over to the next area. We'll travel here. Nice. Okay, so now we have a few new islands. We've still got a big old whale with big old teeth, which is horrifying. We've got this island here, which has 2 new drifters on it. We've got Sammy and we've got Steve over there. And then we also, somewhere over here, have another island, which currently has unknown treasures, as well as unknown amounts of research available to us, a shack town. And so if we go and we scavenge that, much like before, we're going to send somebody out to check that out, but we're not going to know what we're going to get until we actually get there. And it could potentially take a couple of trips to actually get everything that's there as well. So we'll let our drifter ransack this area and start loading things up. And you know what? I kind of want to name my drifters. Like we have, who do we have here? I would love to select. It's kind of hard to select the character sometimes. I don't know if I can select him whilst he's on the island here, but back over at home, we can definitely select the other 2 who are working on other stuff here. So right now we've got Sammy, which is a perfectly fine name, but I'm going to go ahead and rename you to Alan. And then who else do we have? We also have another drifter hanging around somewhere. Oh, they are working on the water distillery. Again, I don't know if I can actually select them while they're stood inside of the building, but as soon as they are out of the building, I can go ahead and select you. And we can't have a series without having a drifter named Nick. Perfect. And then who else do we have here? We got one more boat, which has just come back. And real quick, we've got one more guy. We will name you Gregory. Don't know if that's how you spell Gregory, but that's how it's going. So we got Gregory, we got Nick, and we got Alan, all working away to make this town the best town it can possibly be. And so if we click on the town that we're currently working on, we can see what we have currently managed to scavenge from this little shack town. So right now we've managed to achieve 10 dry wood, which is pretty great. It means we don't have to dry it ourselves. And we have managed to achieve 3 research points. Not quite enough to actually unlock anything just yet, but a nice start nonetheless. I'll go ahead and schedule some more firewood here. It might be worth auto-scheduling firewood, although I definitely don't want to run out of dry wood here. I do want to make sure that we can use that for more stuff going forward. Now, it would be nice to have more drifters to collect some more of the extra scrap that's floating around, but I think for the time being, we actually seem to be doing okay. We've got, I think, pretty much everything we can build so far. Like, we've got a sail, we've got all of the boats, we've got a distiller. Yeah, we've built everything we can currently build. So right now, we'll keep sending out this guy to go and get more research points, which he is doing. I think we can still get more research points from this as he goes around and kind of explores more of these leftover buildings. And then as soon as he is done with that, I guess we'll also start sending people out to collect stuff. Now you'll notice that nothing here is within swimming distance, which kind of sucks. It means we are going to have to send out boats to get all this stuff working. And it might not be a bad idea at this point in time to actually get another boat going, just so we can kind of have one. Hold on, let me throw it down like so. Just so we can have one boat heading on over to kind of explore new areas. One boat maybe heading out to collect some fish, which we should definitely do, by the way. We are getting kind of low on food, so I'll put one down right about there. And then one more to go and kind of collect, you know, more plastic, more wood, and stuff like that. We're not too low on wood and plastic right now, so that's definitely not a top priority, but definitely something that we should keep an eye on going forward here. And I think, for the time being, I am going to auto-queue firewood. If we get to a point where we've got too much water, we can always go ahead and stop the firewood queue. But I think for now it makes sense, just because we need so much water to keep all of our drifters from dying. Yeah, look at that. So you'll see we did just get 10 firewood from the shack town. And we also managed to get 6 research points as well. And it looks like we might be done now. It looks like he's finished with this area, potentially. Although it does say cancel. So maybe there's another trip still to be done. I'm not too sure. It's also quite possible that we're close to being full on storage. Oh no, we've still got quite a bit of space. That's good. That's very good. I will go ahead and quickly schedule the creation. I'll cancel this real quick. I'm going to turn off auto create as soon as this one bit of firewood is made. And then I'll schedule one piece of rope so we can get that new boat going as well. It looks like he is not done because he's once again heading back over there. All right, that's good. I think we could go and get these 2 people. Rescue. I think in the wiki here, it does say under landmarks, rescue. When somebody's in dire need, you can save them. And in brackets, it says, please do. So we do have kind of a moral obligation to save these people, I guess. Although at the same time, I guess it makes no sense to save them if it means that everyone's going to die from a lack of food and water on our island, right? Presumably, while they're on this island here, they're just alive. Like, they're not going to die on this island, I would assume. Yeah, it looks like they've got full stats. We got Sammy and we got Steve. Some great names there. Steve Grumpy Qual? Kewal? I don't know how you pronounce that, but... or Guppy even. Steve Guppy Kowal. All right. We could try and research something now. We do have access to 5 research points. I don't necessarily know. Actually, I guess presumably, once we get screws and pipes, maybe we unlock new buildings already. Although we're up to 8 research points. And so you know what? I think what I will do is I think I'm going to wait until this island here is completely kind of searched out. And once they've finished everything, they even found some more food, which is real nice. Once they've found everything they can find on this island, maybe we'll get 10 research points. And if we do, I think the first thing that I would like to unlock is definitely this guy right here, the solar still. It's only a small amount of water, but any amount of water at all is definitely good for us right now. Water is 100% the thing that's holding us back the most. Although food is definitely not far behind. We are really kind of hanging on by the skin of our teeth here. We're up to 16.5 food, but 8 of that has just been delivered from this new island. And so I would love it if someone would bring back some food here. And thankfully, one of our employees is on the job. Our good old friend Gregory is on the job here, bringing that food back. Fantastic. While I think it's Nick is working away on making us some fresh water. So we don't have a tick mark over here, and this is done. So we have managed to get everything we're going to get. Unfortunately, we didn't get 8 or 10 research points even. We only managed to get 8 there. I think I will go ahead and rescue these people. I know we don't have enough water or food, but presumably the idea is that as soon as we get more people, we can put them to work on getting more water and more food. You know, right now we need pretty much somebody to work on the distillery 24/7, and we really want somebody working on the firewood kind of 24/7 as well. And to make sure that these people can continue to work on that stuff 24/7, we also want to make sure that we have somebody out there getting the wetwood and also bringing back more plastic as well. And so, real quick, now that we have that rope, let's put down another little mooring point, at which point we'll throw down another salvage boat. We'll send somebody out to start getting some wood. Are we up? We're now up to 5 people. Fantastic. They do, of course, need homes to live in. And by homes, we need little beds on the ocean. So we'll throw one down there. And there. That's going to give our new people somewhere to sleep. Good stuff. And as soon as we get this next boat down, which we can do as soon as the mooring point is ready, we can start sending those out to collect new stuff. And actually, now that this boat is done collecting things off the island, we can also go ahead and put down a little marker on one of these. How big can we go here? We can't go big enough really to cover 2 areas. And so I think for now we'll just do one here. And then we'll also set another one down over here, like that. And of course, to make that happen, we'll throw down another boat right about there. Nice. So I think at any point we can move on to the next area. These first few areas do have the little kind of sail mark between them. And so it says the wind will carry you. So presumably we can get all the way to this area before we require some kind of fuel to move on. I'm assuming once we get here, the wind might change, and so we actually have to actively use some kind of fuel, maybe set up a generator of some description onto our town before we can move on to new areas. That should be pretty interesting. The good news is that for now, we seem to be going up in water reserves, and we also seem to be going up in food reserves as well. We're up to 20 food now. Fantastic. Mostly due to the fact that we have somebody working on the fish pretty much full-time. We've got somebody working on the distillery full-time, somebody working on making firewood full-time. And so really the only thing we're lacking right now, I think, is dry wood. We're pretty quickly running out of dry wood here, which is not great. How many people do we currently have? We've got 5 people, and so 1, 2 are working on making water, and then 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I guess we're using everybody pretty much as effectively as we can, right? As soon as things are built here, we should have 1 person, 2 people getting wood, 1 person getting fish, and then 2 people working on turning that wood into clean water, as well as occasionally somebody putting fish onto the drying rack to turn it into dried fish. So everyone is really kind of tapped out right now, but you'll see our water is going up, and so long as everything keeps going up here, I'm not too worried. Hopefully we are bringing in enough wood to sustain this, but I guess with that, only time will tell. And looking at the time, I think it is about time we wrapped up today's episode, guys. I'm going to go ahead and pause there. As always, guys, if you did enjoy the video and you want to see more Flotsam in the future, be sure to go ahead and hit that like button. It really does help out a lot, especially on a new series like this one. Leave a comment down below, subscribe if you're new here to get notified as soon as new videos come out. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.